Forbidden Planet's Robbie the Robot didn't just walk across the screen, he strutted through a meticulously crafted alien landscape that would redefine what science fiction could look like. The film's innovative matte paintings transformed MGM's sound stages into the crystalline spires and emerald skies of Altair 4, establishing a visual language that modern blockbusters still borrow from today. The production team's use of forced perspective and painted backdrops created seamless alien vistas on a relatively modest budget, proving that imagination could triumph over financial limitations. These techniques would later influence the sweeping planetary landscapes of Star Wars and the atmospheric world-building of Blade Runner. The film's art directors essentially wrote the playbook for creating believable alien civilizations through practical effects and artistic ingenuity. Beebe and Louis Barron's all-electronic score shattered many conventions in Hollywood's musical handbook, working with tape loops, oscillators, and homemade contraptions they called cybernetic circuits. The duo created sounds that seemed to emerge from the planet itself. The studio initially balked at their avant-garde approach, fearing audiences would reject music that sounded more like alien communication than traditional orchestration. This sonic experimentation proved prophetic. The Barron's electronic textures became the foundation of science fiction sound design, influencing everything from the Enterprise's engine hum to the atmospheric drones in modern space epics. Their work demonstrated that sound could be as alien as any visual effect, creating emotional landscapes that transported audiences beyond Earth's familiar boundaries. The film's adaptation of Shakespeare's The Tempest added unexpected literary weight to the genre. By grounding its story in classical themes of power, isolation, and the dangers of unchecked knowledge, Forbidden Planet proved that science fiction could tackle profound psychological territory. Dr. Morbius's tragic arc, a brilliant scientist undone by his own hubris, established a template for character-driven narratives that would resurface in films like Interstellar and Ex Machina. When Klaatu stepped out of his silver spacecraft in 1951, he didn't come brandishing death rays or conquest plans. Instead, he delivered a message that would fundamentally reshape how cinema portrayed extraterrestrial encounters. The universe grows smaller every day, and the threat of aggression by any group anywhere can no longer be tolerated. This wasn't just dialogue. It was a manifesto that many critics argue established peaceful alien contact as a compelling template for morally complex science fiction. Director Robert Wise made a calculated gamble by designing Gort, the towering robot guardian, to appear non-threatening rather than monstrous. The iconic silver suit and calm demeanor deliberately contrasted with the era's typical sci-fi creatures, shifting focus from fear to philosophical contemplation. Some film historians suggest this design philosophy would echo decades later in films like E.T. the Extraterrestrial, where alien visitors inspire wonder rather than terror. Bernard Herrmann's theremin score proved equally revolutionary. "I wanted the theremin to sound like a voice from another world," Herrmann explained, crafting an otherworldly atmosphere that became synonymous with alien encounters. The eerie electronic tones didn't just accompany the action. Many viewers felt they created an emotional bridge between human and alien consciousness. Some music historians suggest this sonic innovation influenced everything from Star Trek's opening theme to Close Encounters of the Third Kind's musical communication sequences. The film's anti-militarism stance sparked fierce debate during the Cold War, with critics accusing it of being soft on communism, while advocates praised its nuclear disarmament message. This controversy highlighted something crucial. Science fiction could tackle real-world politics through alien metaphors. Modern directors like Denis Villeneuve have explicitly cited this approach as inspiration for Arrival's focus on linguistic diplomacy over military action. The pods weren't just science fiction props, they were mirrors reflecting America's deepest Cold War anxieties about losing individual identity to collective conformity. Don Siegel's invasion of the Body Snatchers transformed the sleepy town of Santa Mira into a paranoid nightmare where neighbors couldn't be trusted, establishing a narrative framework that would later influence modern thrillers like Get Out and echo through the Stepford Wives with remarkable precision. Siegel's relentless pacing created something rarely seen in science fiction cinema at the time, a thriller that never allowed audiences to catch their breath. The film's escalating tension, from subtle behavioral changes to full-scale pod invasion, demonstrated how sustained dread could be more effective than sudden scares. This approach would become the gold standard for psychological horror, helping establish a tradition that influenced everything from John Carpenter's The Thing to Jordan Peele's paranoia-driven narratives. The film's genius lay in making the familiar terrifying. Ordinary townspeople, family doctors, and local police became potential threats, turning everyday interactions into exercises in suspicion. This transformation of mundane social dynamics into sources of terror would influence countless dystopian narratives that followed, echoing through works from The Handmaid's Tale to Black Mirror's exploration of technological conformity. Seagull's ambiguous ending sparked fierce debate among audiences and critics alike. Dr. Bennell's frantic highway warning, "They're here already, you're next," left viewers uncertain whether humanity had been saved or doomed. This narrative ambiguity, initially controversial, became a hallmark of prestige genre filmmaking. Modern directors like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve have explicitly embraced the storytelling approach, crafting endings that provoke discussion rather than provide closure. The Martian war machines didn't just attack Los Angeles, they obliterated it with a methodical precision that would become the gold standard for alien invasion spectacle. Producer George Pal's 1953 adaptation of H.G. Wells' classic novel pioneered the art of cinematic mass destruction, creating visual blueprints that modern blockbusters from Independence Day to War of the Worlds still follow religiously. The film's revolutionary approach to depicting widespread devastation required unprecedented coordination between multiple effects teams. Miniature Los Angeles neighborhoods were meticulously constructed only to be systematically destroyed by the Martian heat rays, creating footage that felt disturbingly real to audiences accustomed to smaller-scale monster mayhem. This commitment to believable citywide chaos established the visual vocabulary for every alien invasion that followed, proving that audiences crave spectacle on an epic scale. Director Byron Haskin's decision to show the invasion from multiple perspectives — military command centers, civilian evacuation routes, scientific observation posts — created a sense of global scope that earlier science fiction films had never achieved. The film's documentary-style news broadcasts and radio reports added layers of authenticity, making the fictional invasion feel like breaking news coverage. This multi-angle approach would later influence disaster epics like The Day After Tomorrow and become standard practice for depicting worldwide catastrophes. The Martian machines themselves became iconic through their distinctive Cobra-like design and haunting electronic sound effects. Unlike the humanoid aliens that dominate earlier films, these mechanical invaders represented pure technological superiority, their sleek forms suggesting an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Some critics see the machine's methodical sweep across Earth's surface as a model for later implacable alien forces such as the Matrix's Sentinels or Transformers' Decepticons. The giant ants of them didn't just terrorize the New Mexico desert, they established the creature feature blueprint that would dominate summer blockbusters for decades to come. Warner Bros.' 1954 monster epic proved that audiences would flock to theaters for oversized threats, launching an entire subgenre that continues to drive box office success from Jurassic Park to the MonsterVerse franchise. Director Gordon Douglas crafted something revolutionary, a monster movie that took itself seriously. Rather than relying on camp or comedy, Them approached its giant ant invasion with documentary-like precision, following the FBI and entomologists as they methodically tracked the creatures across multiple states. This procedural approach, combining scientific investigation with escalating action, became the framework for modern creature features, influencing everything from Jaws to, many critics argue, Cloverfield's found footage intensity. The film's creature design achieved something remarkable for 1950s cinema, genuinely frightening monsters that felt biologically plausible. The production team constructed full-size mechanical ant heads and thoraxes, allowing actors to interact directly with the creatures rather than relying solely on rear projection. The ants' distinctive chittering sound, created by mixing bird calls with electronic manipulation, became so iconic that film scholars suggest similar audio techniques still appear in contemporary monster movies. Them's influence extends beyond mere spectacle into narrative structure. Many critics believe the film's three-act progression, discovery, investigation, and final confrontation helped establish the pacing rhythm that blockbuster creature features still follow today. The climactic battle in the Los Angeles storm drains, with flamethrower-wielding soldiers hunting giant ants through underground tunnels, arguably created a model for enclosed monster showdowns that echoes through Alien, Tremors, and countless modern thrillers. Jack Arnold's oversized furniture and forced perspective tricks weren't just clever filmmaking. They revolutionized how cinema could manipulate scale and perception, creating visual techniques that would influence everything from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids to Marvel's Ant-Man adventures, with some filmmakers citing these classic shrinking films as direct inspiration. The Incredible Shrinking Man proved that audiences would accept radical shifts in perspective when executed with meticulous attention to detail, establishing practical effects methods that, according to industry consensus, modern filmmakers still reference when crafting size transformation sequences. The film's philosophical core distinguished it from typical monster movies of the era. As Scott Carey shrinks from 6 feet to microscopic proportions, Richard Matheson's screenplay transforms a simple science fiction premise into an existential meditation on humanity's place in the universe. Some critics argue this approach, using genre elements to explore deeper questions about identity, purpose, and survival, paved the way for directors like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve to embed philosophical complexity within their blockbuster narratives. Arnold's decision to show Carey's shrinking journey through multiple environments, from his own basement to a spider's web, is often cited as creating a framework for scale-based storytelling that emphasized psychological transformation alongside physical change. The protagonist's evolving relationship with everyday objects, from pencils becoming weapons to thimbles becoming shelters, critics interpret as demonstrating how perspective shifts could drive character development in ways that pure action sequences couldn't match. The film's climactic spider encounter became legendary for its practical execution and genuine terror. Using a real tarantula against miniature sets, Arnold created a monster showdown that felt authentically dangerous, with critics arguing this proved that intimate threats could be as compelling as citywide destruction. This focus on personal-scale horror within science fiction scenarios is widely credited with influencing creature features for decades. The Arctic research station in The Thing from Another World became cinema's most influential pressure cooker, trapping a diverse group of scientists and military personnel with an alien predator that refused to negotiate or explain itself. Christian Nyby's 1951 thriller didn't just create tension. It engineered a social experiment that would become the DNA for countless claustrophobic ensemble pieces that followed, from John Carpenter's 1982 remake to modern television series like The Terror. What made this isolated outpost so revolutionary wasn't the alien itself, but how the human characters responded to being trapped together. The film's ensemble cast, featuring scientists, soldiers, journalists, and support staff, created a microcosm of conflicting personalities and priorities that amplified under pressure. Each character brought distinct expertise and viewpoints, turning every decision into a debate and every strategy session into a potential fracture point. This multi-perspective approach to crisis management became the framework for ensemble-driven thrillers, proving that human conflict could be as compelling as monster attacks. Carpenter has openly credited the original film's group dynamics as fundamental to his own version's success, particularly the way characters' professional roles created natural tensions. The 1951 film's portrayal of military pragmatism clashing with scientific curiosity established character archetypes that persist in modern genre cinema, from Aliens to The Mist. The constant debates over whether to study or destroy the creature reflected broader Cold War anxieties about scientific progress versus survival instincts. The alien's relentless, emotionless pursuit created what critics recognize as the first truly implacable movie monster, a threat that couldn't be reasoned with, bargained with, or understood. Unlike the sympathetic creatures in other 50s science fiction, this plant-based organism operated on pure survival instinct, making it genuinely alien in ways that humanoid invaders never achieved. This concept of an utterly foreign intelligence would influence creature design philosophy for decades, inspiring everything from Carpenter's shape-shifting organism to modern horror's faceless killers. Ray Harryhausen's flying saucers didn't just attack Washington, D.C., they redefined what visual spectacle could achieve in science fiction cinema, creating destruction sequences so dynamic and convincing that critics widely consider them the gold standard for alien invasion movies for decades to come. Earth vs. the Flying Saucers proved that stop-motion animation could deliver blockbuster-level thrills, with Harryhausen's frame-by-frame craftsmanship producing saucer attacks that many film historians note felt more visceral and immediate than previous audience experiences. The film's breakthrough came from Harryhausen's innovative approach to mechanical movement. Rather than depicting the saucers as static objects floating through space, he animated them with wobbling, spinning motions that suggested actual physical mass and aerodynamic instability. This attention to realistic physics made the craft feel genuinely otherworldly yet believable, establishing visual principles that many critics acknowledge directors from Steven Spielberg to Roland Emmerich would later adopt for their own invasion epics. Film historians note that Harryhausen's destruction sequences elevated the entire genre's ambitions. His methodical demolition of Washington landmarks, the Capitol Dome crashing down, the Washington Monument toppling, required months of painstaking animation work, but the results created a framework for large-scale devastation that critics widely acknowledge influenced everything from Independence Day to War of the Worlds remakes. The precision of these sequences, with debris falling at realistic speeds and buildings collapsing with convincing weight, demonstrated that practical effects could achieve epic scope without sacrificing intimate detail. Tim Burton has specifically cited Harryhausen's work in this film as a major inspiration for his own approach to fantastical imagery, noting how the animator's ability to make impossible things feel tangible influenced his entire career philosophy. Many effects artists acknowledge that this legacy continues to ripple through contemporary cinema, where practical effects creators still study Harryhausen's techniques for creating believable, impossible worlds. When Worlds Collide transformed planetary annihilation into a cinematic art form, helping establish the framework for many disaster blockbusters that followed with its unprecedented scale of global catastrophe. Rudolph Matte's 1951 epic didn't merely depict Earth's destruction. It choreographed humanity's desperate exodus with a precision that is often cited as an influence by modern filmmakers crafting their own apocalyptic scenarios. The film's depiction of mass evacuation, with thousands fleeing doomed cities as a rogue planet approaches, created visual language that would echo through everything from Deep Impact to Greenland. The Academy Award-winning special effects achieved something revolutionary for their era. They made planetary destruction feel both spectacular and intimate. Chesley Bonestell's astronomical paintings, combined with elaborate miniature work, created cosmic vistas that conveyed genuine scale without losing human perspective. The film's rocket ship construction sequences, featuring massive sets and detailed models, demonstrated how practical effects could sell impossible concepts through meticulous craftsmanship rather than mere spectacle. What separated this disaster epic from its contemporaries was its unflinching examination of survival ethics. The narrative's central dilemma, selecting 44 individuals from Earth's billions to escape aboard the rescue ship, forced audiences to confront uncomfortable questions about human worth and societal priorities. These moral complexities, wrapped in spectacular destruction, helped establish the philosophical framework that defines modern disaster cinema's most compelling entries. The film's influence extends beyond visual spectacle into narrative structure. Its three-act progression, discovery of the threat, preparation for evacuation, and final escape, became the standard framework for disaster films, from the Poseidon Adventure to recent climate catastrophe movies. The emphasis on scientific expertise, government coordination, and civilian panic created character archetypes that persist in contemporary blockbusters. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.